We are delighted you chose to be with us tonight. We want you to have a safe and wonderful experience. Please be assured that your safety as well as your enjoyment of the event are our utmost concern. Please take a moment, look around, and identify the nearest two exits. Whether in a virtual setting at your home or physically in some form of venue, you must always be ready. So please identify two exits in your current location in the event it is necessary to evacuate quickly and orderly. Also, during this COVID 19 pandemic, please remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and always stand 6 feet apart from others. Please enjoy the event and continue to be safe.
Welcome to day 3 of the Coalition of Staten Island Black-led community-based organizations Candidates Forum Week. My name is Nicole Myers, and I serve as the president of the National Council of Negro Women on Staten Island. NCNW will be co-hosting tonight's forum along with the Harriet Tubman Purple Hat Society. We are excited to partner with a coalition of like-minded organizations who want to ensure that all of our members and our communities make informed decisions when electing representatives to office. Our coalition pledges to maintain a balanced opportunity for all candidates to express their views. We are nonpartisan and do not support any political candidate or political party. Tonight, we will meet with candidates running for 3 separate offices: Justice of the Supreme Court, 13th Judicial District, for Civil Court, 2nd Municipal Court District, and for Borough President. It is important for you to know that we sent personal invitations to all 33 candidates running for offices. Those that appear on the forum hosted this week accepted our invitation. Those candidates that do not appear did not respond to our invitation. Before I turn things over to our NCNW-SI moderator, Jazzy Robinson, I want to take a moment to highlight the coalition members and thank each of them for their participation on this important and historic effort. Besides the National Council of Negro Women on Staten Island and the Harriet Tubman Purple Hat Society, the coalition includes African Community Alliance of Staten Island, Central Family Life Center Youth Build, Empowerment Zone Incorporated, Fatherhood Matters, Hidden Pearls of Staten Island's Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Lambda Kappa Mu Sorority Incorporated, Lambda Chapter, Staten Island Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Staten Island Black Heritage, Staten Island branch of the NAACP, and the Staten Island Liberian Community Association. And thank you to all of the members of these organizations who have joined us tonight. Early voting starts this coming Saturday, and your vote matters. So sit back, relax, and remember, if you don't vote, you don't count. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jazzy, our moderator. Jazzy, take it away.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. Welcome to this evening's Judicial and Borough President's Forum. My name is Jasmine Robinson, and I'm your moderator for the Judicial Candidates Forum tonight. Allow me to go over housekeeping rules for this evening. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, 90 seconds to answer. And for the attendees, if you have questions that were not already asked or answered, please place those questions in the Q&A box. The Q&A box will be monitored for any questions that have not already been asked. and we will do that if time permits. Candidates will then have 1 minute to provide closing statements. To ensure fairness, candidates will speak in the order they arrived at the virtual forum. I'll speak in order for the opening statements is as follows: Ann Thompson, Charles Troyer, Paul Marone, and Maria Novak. So our first candidate, I will invite to give their opening statement will be Ann Thompson. Ann, please provide your 2-minute opening statement.
First, let me thank everyone for the invitation and just the idea of having a candidate forum for judicial candidates, I think is a wonderful idea. I want to very briefly just describe who I am, where I come from. I am a native Staten Islander. I have lived in multiple neighborhoods throughout Staten Island, for the most part, Dongan Hills and Park Hill. I left Staten Island to go to college. I went to Dartmouth College. From Dartmouth, I went to Harvard. After Harvard, I worked at several corporate firms. After 9/11, I chose to stay home with my kids for a short period of time, and I participated as sort of volunteer pro bono work for Mocha Moms, which is an organization for stay-at-home mothers of color, just an organization that supports their efforts in raising their children and providing for their families. When I decided to go back to work, I knew that I wanted to renew my original reason for going to law school, which was to be part of my community and to serve my community. And I had a particular personal interest in domestic violence and sexual abuse, prosecuting sexual abuse cases. And so I worked at the district attorney's office for over a decade, doing domestic violence, crimes against children, crimes against seniors, mental health court, as well as crimes against people with special needs. I was appointed as a judge of criminal court by Mayor de Blasio in February of 2018. And I've been there since, so coming up on 4 years as a judge. And my reason for running for Supreme Court is for one reason was I would be the first woman of color on the Supreme Court in this county, as sitting elected or appointed. And I have a commitment more than anything to fairness, to impartiality, and to making decisions that have nothing to do with political affiliation, and wanting to make sure that the people that are in my courtroom are treated with respect and dignity. And I think my time is up. You're muted, Jazzy.
Yes, yes, thank you so much, Ann, for your opening statement. Charles, your 2 minutes, Charles, opening statement.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And I do have a little clock here to keep. This is my biggest problem, is staying within 2 minutes. And that seems to be the rule everywhere. Okay, good evening, everyone. I too thank you for having this forum and for having me here tonight to tell you about who I am and why I'm running for this office. First of all, let's start with, I've been a judge for 11 years now. I've been an acting Supreme Court judge for 9 years. I'm running for the elected seat to the Supreme Court. I was first appointed to the bench in 2010. I was appointed to the civil court. From the civil court, I was then appointed to the criminal court, served in a criminal court in both Staten Island and Brooklyn for about 4 years. I was then elevated to the Supreme Court in January 2013. Sitting in the Supreme Court, I've presided over both civil and criminal cases. I've presided over the specialized narcotics part, the criminal mental health court. With respect to civil, my biggest claim to fame is my guardianship part, dealing with individuals who are suffering from incapacities, whether it be mental or physical. I've also presided over a medical malpractice part, a civil mental hygiene part, and a trial part. I believe over the past 11 years, over the 30 years that I've had practicing law, both as a trial attorney and as a law clerk to 3 judges, that I do have the experience, the ability to do the job, and I have been doing the job for close to 9 years now. I believe that my reputation in the court, to be fair, to treat everyone the same. Politics is never an issue in the courthouse. It never should be, and it never has been during the time, at least with me, that I have sat as a judge. Oh boy, I'm running out of time here. My reason for running is I've been vetted by many different groups. I've been confirmed by the Senate, and I feel that at this time I should be elected by the people of the county that I serve in. And I'm a second generation Staten Islander.
Thank you so much, Charles. Paul, 2 minutes.
My name is Paul Marone. I am the current law clerk to Judge Lisa Gray in Richmond County Supreme Court. We're in the civil term. We deal mostly with, or we've dealt mostly with personal injury matters, general civil liability matters, public nuisance cases, and we are in the process of transitioning into a criminal part. I have the pleasure of working on the same floor as Judge Troya. I have the pleasure of meeting Judge Thompson, at least on one occasion. They both have stellar reputations, and it's truly an honor to be here. I am the only one of the 4 candidates in this race that is not a sitting judge, and that's not lost on me. I have a extreme reverence for the court. I have reverence for the judges that sit on the court. So this is not something that I take lightly, and it's truly a privilege to be here. And thank you to you for putting on this event. Prior to working for Judge Gray, I was Chief of Staff for Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis for 7 years. I dealt with constituent issues and helping people navigate the government system, deal with issues like Hurricane Sandy, deal with issues like toll relief and things like that. In 2018, I was hired by Judge Gray in lower civil court. That is the court that handles monetary disputes of $25,000 or less, as well as no fault litigation and commercial landlord tenant. Why am I running? Because like I said, I have extreme reverence for the court. It's a dream of mine to be a judge. And I've served shoulder to shoulder with a sitting judge for the past 5 years. And I really want to do this at the highest level. And I think I could deliver for the people of my community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your opening. Next up is Maria Novak.
Thank you so much for having all of us. I guess I'll follow in Judge Thompson's footsteps and give a little bit of a background about myself. I am the only candidate who was not born, not only on not in this country. I'm not a native Staten Islander. I'm not native to the United States. I was born in the former Soviet Union. I came here at the age of 7. My parents are a true immigrant success story. I was educated in public schools throughout Brooklyn. I went on to Cornell University for my undergrad. From there, I went to Brooklyn Law School. I worked for a mid-sized firm in the city for a couple of years after law school. Then I had my son and quickly realized that that was not a very good work-life balance. And I opened my own practice in Staten Island, where I primarily did matrimonial and family work. Since 2016, however, I have been working for the courts as a court attorney to Judge Rajeswari in Richmond County Criminal Court. So I would say the last 5 years, my experience has exclusively been in criminal law and criminal procedure. I left private practice essentially because I felt like I needed to give back not only to my community, but to my country. I wanted to engage in public service, and I thought that this was the best way to do it. I would say that myself, Judge Troya, Judge Thompson are the only candidates who don't come from politics. We have always been lawyers, litigators, and we've always been there practicing law. And we've always kept politics out of the courtroom. I didn't set my timer, so I don't know where I am with the 2 minutes.
You have 15 seconds.
Okay. So I think that the reason why I would also make a good judge is, aside from, the background that a lot of us have, which is, the minimum 10 years requirement and being attorneys, I think that I am a representation of the Staten Island community. There is a very large immigrant community on Staten Island, and more of those people need to be represented on the bench. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And now we're going to go into our questions. Again, it's going to vary, so it's not going to go in any particular. It's not going to go in any particular order. So our first question, and we'll start off with you, Ms. Novak, if that's all right. As a prospective judge, what do you consider your greatest strengths and weaknesses? And again, you have a minute to answer.
So I think it's kind of what I touched upon, which is that to be a good judge requires the ability to assess credibility of the person in front of you, whether it's sometimes attorneys, but most of the time it's witnesses and the litigants before you, and your own personal experiences make you more aware of credibility issues. So one good example is the judge that I work for, we once did a bench trial. It was a criminal bench trial, and the defendant was a Russian man. And when he testified on his own behalf, he never smiled, not once. And my judge leaned over to me and said, do you think the fact that he's not smiling means that, he might be not honest? And I said, well, he may not be honest, but it's not because he's not smiling. It's because he's from Eastern Europe. He was born in the Soviet Union. We don't smile. So having this cultural awareness of where people come from and being able to read their behavior, I think makes anyone a better judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Paul?
As far as strength goes, I'm going to try to give this an honest answer rather than a political answer. My honest answer is my researching and writing abilities. I don't doubt that any of the other candidates on this panel have that, don't have that strength as well. I think we all are capable of researching and writing decisions. So I want to talk about something else in addition to that, and that's my ability to deal with people in the court who are not represented by counsel. Sometimes they're known as pro se litigants. When I was in lower civil court, we had our fair share, quite a bit of unrepresented litigants. And once we got to Supreme, still there's not as many, but there's still quite a few unrepresented litigants. And it's an important thing to note because they're the ones most at risk of making a mistake or overlooking something or getting into trouble and not entirely getting a fair shake. And I think I picked up that strength during my time in the state assembly, working on constituent issues, helping people with their government-related problems. As far as a weakness goes, my weakness is, as Ms. Novak said in her opening statement, is I was not in private practice. I was not an attorney day in and day out going to court. When I worked for the assembly, I did engage in litigation on certain occasions, but I didn't do it day in and day out.
Paul, I'm going to need you to wrap it up.
I will wrap it up right now. So
Okay.
The fortunate thing is Judge Gray was in private practice for a long time, the judge I worked for, and she's placed a premium on dealing with the attorneys and understanding that they're hustling and they need to be in 5 places at once. And she's very, very reasonable with them. And that's how I will be if I'm fortunate enough to be on the bench.
Charles, you have a minute.
Okay.
Gotcha.
My strengths, folks. I've done it all. Okay. I've tried cases. I've worked in the lower courts. I've worked in the Supreme Court. I've worked in the appellate division. I've done it all. So I have a good background on what goes on in the court. I think that my greatest strength, most of my areas that I focus on in the court are mental hygiene, individuals suffering from incapacities. I do understand that when people come before you, you have to look at the person that comes before you and read that person and understand their background to understand what their issues are. And I think that is my greatest strength, is being able to communicate with the people that come before me and to have a better understanding of what it is that they need and why they are acting or saying what they are acting and saying. You have to understand that they are individuals. And I think that's my greatest strength, is my ability to get a grasp of the individual in front of me. My biggest weakness, is second guessing. And this is what I was told when I first got on the bench by judges that I had worked for, that you make a decision and you move on. You do not continue to second guess yourself. I haven't overcome that yet. I still lie in bed thinking about what happened during the day and whether I made the right decision. And that is something that's very, very difficult to separate. And I don't know if I ever will be able to do that, but that is my greatest weakness.
And the same question, and you have a minute.
So I think because we are in an adversarial situation in a courtroom, everyone is trying to get their own side to prevail. But I think ultimately what's important is that we come to the right result, right? And so what is important to me, and what I think is my strength, is that I never feel like I am the smartest person in the courtroom, that I want to engage the parties and make sure that they adequately contribute. And I'm extremely willing to learn from anyone who's in the courtroom, and whether that means the other lawyers or that means the defendant, I don't care, as long as ultimately the result is right. I think that sometimes that leads to my weakness, which is it allows for people in the courtroom to sometimes assume that that means I'm a little bit of a pushover. And a lot of times what that then requires is that I reestablish the order of the court, which can sometimes make it confrontational and uncomfortable in the courtroom. And so I think those are sort of two sides to the same coin, in the sense that I welcome input and I welcome people's opinions and their thought and their scholarship, but also it requires me to make sure that it's clear that I am the judge, and order shall prevail.
Next question is for Charlie. What kind of jobs, interests, or volunteers activities did you pursue during school and law school?
Wow, I'm sorry. We're going back 30 years. So I've been out of law school over 30 years at this point. I'm trying to do the best that I can remember, but I can tell you what the volunteer work that's been done most recently during my career, particularly when I was particularly being on the bench. What I've tried to do is reach out to the immigrant communities on Staten Island. We've hosted within the courthouse seminars with individuals from different backgrounds, so that new young immigrant college students, high school students, and even graduate students can have an opportunity to see all the different careers and aspects within the court, because it's more than just being a lawyer or a judge. We have court interpreters, we have court reporters, we have court clerks, we have court officers. I've also engaged while I'm on the bench in doing moot court for immigrants, new immigrants to Staten Island, high school students, college students. That's been my most recent. Look, folks, I'll be straight with you. My sister's the executive director of Project Hospitality. Before she started at Project Hospitality, going back to when I was in college, I volunteered there, which is how she learned about the organization. So that was my focus in college.
Same question.
All right, so going back to high school, I was a member of the National Honor Society, and life team in my high school, and there was some volunteer work that we did. I can't remember specifics. It's going back a long ways. I can tell you that more recently, I have participated in volunteer events for completing healthcare proxies and powers of attorney for people for free. It was during my time in the New York State Assembly. After hours, we did that. And then during Hurricane Sandy, the district that I worked in was one of the hardest hit in the entire state. So, you know, we had our assignments to do as far as being employees of the State Assembly, but, you know, in all honesty, there was some opportunities. I had off hours and on weekends to go help with cleanup and help people get back on their feet in their homes that were destroyed by the storm. So that was more recently. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Anne, same question.
So college, Law and Philosophy Society, Harvard Defenders representing indigent clients that were charged with small level crimes, misdemeanors, and violations in Somerset County, which is in Cambridge. And the Earl Warren, I received the Earl Warren Legal Defense Fund scholarship through the NAACP. And so I was a summer intern there, volunteering. And then most recently, I talked about Mocha Moms, which is near and dear to my heart, and just helping women in the community sort of find community and raise healthy children.
Thank you. Maria?
So when I was in high school, I participated in the citywide mock trial competition for all 4 years. And it's a competition that still exists. It's citywide, and then it expands to being statewide. It is an amazing, amazing organization and competition for public high school kids who are interested in law or even, you know, thinking about it. So I have gone back every single year and volunteered as a school coach, a team coach, and as a judge in those years when I wasn't assigned to any school or coaching any school. It's a wonderful, wonderful program that teaches kids how to speak in public, how to think on their feet. And even if they don't choose to become lawyers, it helps them across the board in their future endeavors, in college, in grad school, in any employment. Time's up.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now we're going to, for the interest of time, we're going to have everyone prepare, say their closing statement. Charlie, we're going to start off with you. We know that you have somewhere to be, so you can prepare, you can do your closing statement.
Folks, I've been doing this job as sitting as a Supreme Court judge for the past 9 years, been a judge for 11 years. The 9 years I've been in Supreme Court, I've been fortunate to be in my hometown community. My main areas of focus here have been on guardianship with those that are suffering from incapacities, with civil mental hygiene, criminal mental health, providing, being over the criminal matters involving individuals with mental illness, civil mental hygiene, and now medical malpractice. I have the trial experience to handle cases that go to trial. I think that I have the knowledge and the compassion to deal with the individuals in our society that are less fortunate, that are suffering from incapacities. I pride myself on my reputation with respect to how my court is run, with how we treat people with respect, how we do what we can to assist and help individuals. Presiding in a guardianship part has given me the opportunity to use my law license, to use my tenure on the bench, to provide assistance to individuals. Sincerest thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much for your participation in tonight's forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a minute for closing statement. And now we're going to hear from Anne. Anne? Please provide your closing.
I think the thing that I want people to remember my tenure on the bench, whether it's in Supreme Court or criminal court, is that I have always made it my commitment to be fair, to be impartial, to treat the people that come into my courtroom with respect, with dignity and kindness. Just because you're a judge doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. And I want that to be my legacy. I am fully committed to being part of my community and serving my community through my work. And I think that my history in the DA's office, as well as my time on the bench, has proven that I have a commitment to doing that kind of work and making sure that the community is treated fairly when it enters into any of the courtrooms that I am in. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Okay, so once again, thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. Going to court is not a pleasant experience. It's often quite stressful for the litigants, for the attorneys, for everyone. I think aside from being impartial and objective and treating people with kindness, one thing that a judge can do to relieve the stress of the people there is to be timely, to be diligent, and kind of move things along. Everyone's a cog in the wheel. Everyone wants to get home to their families at the end of the day. And that's something that I'll definitely put a premium on. And I think this year, all the judicial candidates leave us with a good choice. So no matter what happens on election day, I think the people of Staten Island will fare well, no matter who's elected. So I think we're in a good place. Thank you.
Thank you. And to close us out, Maria?
Thank you. So I just want to take 10 seconds to comment on what Judge Thompson said, which is that I've seen Judge Thompson on the bench when she's sat in Staten Island Criminal Court, and everything that she just said is 100% true. And I have always been in complete awe of how much humility and respect Judge Thompson shows the lawyers, the defendants, the staff, everybody. Everyone loves her in the courthouse. And I can't say enough niceties about Judge Thompson. But what I'll say about, in general, the election, and I am running for civil court, not Supreme Court. And the key to picking a judge is experience. Just focus on the candidate's experience, not politics. Politics don't belong in the courtroom. Nobody cares about, the judges don't care about political affiliations. Just focus on who is most qualified for the job, who has the experience to do the job. And you can't go wrong if you just study the candidate's experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you, for your time and coming out and answering our questions. And now we are going to wrap it up. All right, and I've been told that we have been monitoring the chat, and our Madam Facilitator has indicated that there was no questions in the Q&A portion. So this concludes our portion for the Judicial Candidates Forum. Now we're going to turn it over to the Purple Hat Society, and they're going to be having a discussion with the candidates who are trying to be our next borough president. Leading that discussion is my sister, my friend, Amoy Barnes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jazzy Robinson with the National Council of Negro Women. My name is Amoy Barnes, and I am a member of the Harriet Tubman Purple Hat Society, and I will be your moderator for the Borough President's Candidates Forum. The rules for this evening are as follows. We'll have 2 minutes for candidates to introduce themselves, 90 seconds for them to answer their questions. We look forward to providing a comprehensive forum featuring the candidates vying to be your next borough president. I hope tonight is a valuable experience and that all members of the Staten Island community remember to participate in the elections during early voting or on November 2nd. To ensure fairness, candidates will speak in the order they arrived at the virtual forum. Our speaking order for opening statements is as follows. Our first candidate will be Mark Murphy, followed by Letitia Ramora. I now invite Mark Murphy to give your opening statement.
Moy, thank you. I am losing my voice, unfortunately, so you'll have to excuse me. It is a great honor and pleasure to be here this evening. I had the great opportunity to speak to the NAACP in the primary. I look forward to speaking to you now and just letting you know that I am Mark Murphy, running for Borough President of Staten Island. I have made it my commitment to make Staten Island cleaner, greener, safer, and stronger, to make sure that the office of the Borough Presidency is the most inclusive and diverse office in the history of the Borough President's office. This is not something that I wish to take lightly. This is something that I am committed to, making sure that every community in Staten Island is represented, making sure that we have a borough hall for all, making sure that every community has their voice heard by me, the next Borough President of Staten Island, and that we have a staff that represents and looks like you. That to me is vital. It is something that I have made a commitment to elected officials here in Staten Island, who I have looked up to and admired my entire career. It is something that I really strive to achieve, because I feel unfortunately others do not always strive for those ends. In addition to that, I do believe that Staten Island does not get its fair share from the city of New York. I believe that it's very important that we have a forceful advocate for Staten Island in City Hall and Borough Hall, obviously, but in City Hall, where we have a seat at the table. And if they don't give us a seat at the table, we will make sure that our voice is heard in other ways. I do believe that we have a very unique opportunity right now, with 20 days left to the election, with so many people who want to see significant change, that choosing the first Democratic Borough President in 32 years is a giant step or leap in the right direction for that change. Again, I am humbled to be here. I hope to be able to answer as many questions as I can today. We just finished, myself and my other candidate, Letitia Romero, and Vito Fasella, just finished a almost 2-hour-long debate with Staten Island Advance and all of their editors and reporters. So we are a little bit, I am a little bit, my voice is not quite there, but I hope to be able to get the substance across.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time for being with us today. Our first question is, the role of the borough president often changes depending on the office holder. How would you use the office of the borough president to impact city policies affecting the borough? What is your vision for office?
Well, again, the borough president's role, and their powers are clearly defined, but it's how proactive and aggressive you choose to be in that role. I have said for the last number of years, we've had a borough president who's been very professorial in the way in which they've gone about the job, which is a little bit, they think things through a little bit more than being an outward and aggressive advocate for the community. Not saying that they've done a bad job. I'm just pointing out that my style of leadership is very different. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy. I want to know what the problems are. I want to go and address them directly. I want to find common sense solutions to these problems, because much of the time our flooding can be very, very simply fixed by taking the leaves off of the top of a catch basin. It just matters whether or not a leader is going to actually proactively do that. So my style has always been very, very much a proactive style, one where I want to listen to what the problems are, I want to find out what the solution can be, and I want to affect positive change for our communities. That has always been my approach, and it will be once I get into Borough Hall. In addition, I want to use the right of the Borough President to introduce legislation in the City Council to get our fair share from the City of New York, specifically as it relates to our schools, as it relates to our healthcare centers here in Staten Island, which are underserved by HHC. Those are probably two of my biggest concerns right now. You know, we do have public safety concerns as well. It seems that Eric Adams is addressing those, and it does not really come under the purview of the Borough President's office to make that policy, but I will always advocate, you know, for what policy I feel is best in Staten Island. And that's pretty much how I intend to approach the job, and I look forward to that approach, that new approach, starting in January.
Thank you. The second question is, the Borough President has the authority to introduce legislation, yet few Borough Presidents in recent years have exercised this authority. Would you utilize this power? And if so, what legislation would you introduce?
Yes, I would. And I think I just covered that in the last piece. But the piece of legislation that I would introduce first and foremost would be demanding that HHC, the Health and Hospitals Corporation of New York, fund our hospitals at the same rate that they fund Maimonides and Columbia Presbyterian, based on a per capita calculation. We do not get the dollars we need from HHC in Staten Island. We have two hospitals that serve the public with exceptional care. They do not charge people who cannot afford to go, people who are uninsured. They never turn anybody away. But in many instances, the specialty medicines that are needed by people here that are far superior to the quality of care that you would get at an HHC hospital, these hospitals, our hospitals, are not paid for. I'd like to see that funding. I'd like to make sure that that is done on a legislative level, and we introduce that. In addition, I'd like to introduce the Speed Camera Fairness and Accountability Act to make sure that all speed cameras in Staten Island are installed in a fair and accountable way. That they're not on downslopes, they're not on upslopes where you're forced to accelerate into them or brake into them, that they're specifically placed around schools to make sure that children are protected, and that in the ground around those speed cameras, we carve grooves so it warns people that they are there. These are there to in my opinion, they're there to prevent speeding. They're not there as revenue generators for the City of New York. Because we have 5% of the people of the City of New York and we have 19% of the cars, does not mean the City of New York should tax us inappropriately for our cars. So that's the second piece of legislation. Again, I haven't really gone through every piece that I'd like to introduce, but that's the second one I would look into.
Thank you. Third question. Borough presidents are charged with making hundreds of appointments. What criteria would you use for appointments to positions appointed by the borough president? Example, the panel on educational policy, city planning commission, community boards, etc. What processes would you put in place for advertising open positions and recruiting qualified candidates that represent the diversity of New York City? And would you assure that appointments represent the diversity of Staten Island's growing diverse population?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, the borough president does appoint to the three community boards here, Community Education Council, to the city planning, to HHC, and to a variety of others. Everything that I will do in my office will be transparent. There will be no backroom deals. There will be none of that. This is about making sure that we get, number one, engaged people. We have people that just want jobs, but they're not willing to go do those jobs. I want people that are engaged and want to participate in those jobs. I want to make sure that we have people that who serve on our CEC that represent not just the diversity, but they represent the educational philosophy of making sure our kids get the best possible education they can from the public schools in the City of New York. Making sure that those kids, they get their fair share. Making sure that those kids, they get, a meal in the South Shore right now, there are a few kids that don't get a halal protein for breakfast or lunch. And I could just imagine how difficult that is for a child. I want to make sure that we have people who are on those community education councils, that are on the community boards, that are sensitive to those issues, that just because somebody is from a different culture, somebody practices a different religion, that they too deserve the respect and dignity of having a meal that is prepared in an appropriate fashion for them. We could take that a step further to talk about who we would appoint to the community boards. I want everybody who wishes to serve on those community boards to put their names forward. We put together, not only myself, but the elected officials in the North Shore of Staten Island, a panel of people to help vet who those people will be, the religious leaders, the community leaders, people who have been engaged and continue to be engaged, and prove that they are engaged by their actions, not just their words. And they will help me make those determinations and decisions.
I'm going to have to stop you there because we're over our minute and a half time, but thank you. Question number 4. Developers argue Uniformed Land Use Review Procedure, ULURP, should be streamlined, while community groups and advocates believe more opportunities for input should be provided, or that voting thresholds should be changed for application approval. The pandemic has cast further disruption to the process. What reforms to ULURP do you support?
Well, again, the important thing to understand is that ULURP is a very good process. It is a flawed process in the sense that it is a one-size-fits-all process for the city of New York. And the things that are needed in the Bronx are not necessarily needed in Staten Island. What we must ensure is that there is a review, and that's the most important thing. And I have to say it again, there is a review by a variety of different groups. And yes, the pandemic put the ball to the advantage of the developer to get things done that did not get sufficient review. We need to make sure that projects are reviewed by stakeholders in the community, by the community boards, by a variety of other people, to make sure that these are the things that our community, number one, needs, that are appropriate for the community, and that will help benefit the community. Just recently, we're looking at a variety of different homeless shelters that the city is now imposing upon the North Shore. Essentially, environmental racism is what they're doing, a community that cannot absorb any more punishment. We need to make sure that projects like that get more adequate review, they get vetted, make sure that we have the infrastructure in place. That's number one thing for me. And infrastructure means schools too, so that children, the 1,500 children that are going to move into a tower on Victory Boulevard and St. Paul's Avenue, those children have really no school to go to. They have no green space. They have no outdoor places to go. We need to make sure that in that land use review process, all of these things are taken into account.
And this is our last and final question. In what major ways would your priorities be different from your predecessor?
I truly believe that all of the borough presidents that I have known in my lifetime all loved Staten Island in some way. They may have loved different parts more than the others, but I believe they all, genuinely probably had their heart in the right place. And I don't think of them as being bad people. I think Chimato is genuinely a guy who's been thoughtful in what he's done. We've disagreed on some things, but he's been thoughtful, and he's tried very hard to get the de Blasio administration to do things for Staten Island. I think that, though, when we look at what we have before us, which is a great opportunity with a brand new mayor to redefine the relationship between Staten Island and New York City as we relate to it. The days of secession should go away. We need to think about how we can be a tremendous partner, an island that is the borough of Parks that gets polished and not punished, and how to be that advocate for Staten Island. I hope to be the most engaged, the most aggressive, most proactive, and I don't mean aggressive in a mean way. I mean it in a very sort of like, how can we get the job done proactively versus sort of getting the job done in a reactive way, or getting the job, or taking what they give us and not getting what we truly believe we deserve. So that's how I think I'll be different. Again, I don't criticize the gentleman, the incumbent, who's retiring. We will see more of him in our community in some capacity somewhere. I'm sure he has lots to offer. He's a young man. So I just want to be as engaged as possible, as open and transparent, and let everybody know that they have a voice with me.
So right now I'm going to take some questions from the audience. First question, what do you feel is the top public safety issue on Staten Island, and how will you deal with it?
Well, we could talk about public safety from a variety of different things. We could talk about infrastructure, and you saw these terrible storms where people were flooded out of their homes, and that's a public safety issue. But that's not the one, and I do think it's very important. It's not one that I'll talk about here. I think we'd talk about violence in the communities here in Staten Island. I think we have an illegal gun problem. I think this is a systemic national issue, and I also think it's a local issue, and it needs to be addressed on all levels. The illegal gun problem is something that I have, really, unfortunately, I have to say, years ago in 2001, my uncle was shot and killed in his restaurant. He left 5 children behind at 11 o'clock in the morning by 2 gentlemen with an illegal gun who went on a shooting spree who killed 7 other merchants that same day. So an illegal gun to me destroys the lives of so many people. And as somebody who spends their time at my family's foundation, Camp Good Grief of Staten Island, where we let children know who have lost a parent or a sibling or a loved one, that they don't grieve alone and that they're not alone in their grief. I would hate to have those conversations with those children. So I believe that illegal guns need to come off the streets. They need to be taken off the streets, again, proactively by the NYPD. I believe they need to be taken off the streets legislatively by Congress, and we need to start making that a truly an American issue. It's not one that I'm willing to sit by and watch go by. Our town for anti-gun violence has given me their seal of approval. They're a national organization that's funded by Bloomberg, and again is part of Gabby Giffords and her group. They're very supportive of that. So again, I want to see guns off the street. I think that's the biggest thing. In Staten Island, we really have to say that gun violence disproportionately targets people who are Black and brown. And the reality is if Black lives matter, we need to make sure that those lives matter by ensuring that it's safer for people and that they are not victims to unnecessary gun violence. That to me is something I'm committed to.
Thank you so much. Next question. What oversight is needed for EDC, Economic Development Corporation, to be more transparent?
You're talking New York City EDC. Look, they do make their own decisions. They do what they want. They're again, I'd like to see, it goes beyond just EDC. This goes into Department of Finance. This goes into the City Council. This goes into the mayor's executive budgets. There needs to be a process and a procedure that is put in place in these agencies, so that when the borough president or a city council person or anybody else, funds a capital project, that those dollars get to that project in a timely fashion. You look at some of the agencies in Staten Island, the not-for-profits, the small not-for-profits that rely on dollars. They will get a grant from the borough president, they get a grant from the city council, they get a grant from the mayor, wherever. They will then execute the program, and they won't get paid. This isn't just for the small nonprofits. This is for the large ones as well, whether it's EDC or it's DOF or whether it's the City Hall. They're not getting the dollars in a timely fashion. One of the hospitals in Staten Island, was given a huge grant in 2009, millions of dollars for new equipment. They didn't get paid till 2018. It took 9 years to get paid, and 3 or 2 generations of that equipment to expire before they actually got those dollars. Yeah, look, that hospital could afford it. But what happens if that's a small not-for-profit? Let's say that's Eden 2 or On Your Mark or somebody like that. They're out of business. The city of New York is just does not know how to function. I think that in large part because the vast majority of the people who work for the city of New York have never worked in a place where accountability and timeliness are terribly important. We have to change that. It goes to the same with our NYCHA and our buildings there, where the management there's no accountability for unelected and unappointed and appointed officials. So the bureaucrats tend to do what they want on their timeline, and it punishes us. Same, no different with EDC.
Thank you for that answer. Our next question: how do you currently view racial problems in the borough and specify at least one solid action to improve it?
Well, look, I do believe that we have an opportunity going forward right now to continue having conversations between communities that have been marginalized. Make sure that we have those conversations, because if we don't, then we're ignoring that there are problems. I just met yesterday with the head of the JCC. She said to me, anti-Semitism is on the rise. I spoke to the folks over at the Muslim American Society, and they said to me that bigotry toward their community is on the rise. I've talked to Pastor Carolina just this past weekend, and he said the same thing to me, that bigotry and racism are on the rise. And that's just devastating to me, because it's after all the work, all of the hard work that I believe that we continue to try to do, to see that be on the rise as opposed to on the wane is us unfortunately heading in the wrong direction. What I'd like to see in my office is again, I've said this, it will be the most diverse and most inclusive staff, but those individuals on that staff will help bridge the gap between communities so that they know that they are not left behind. They know that there is no one who is picking on them or anybody who is not listening to the specific needs of an individualized community. It's vital that I think every community know that they are heard, that they are protected, that they are and they are promoted. And that's something that I have been, there's been a commitment not only of mine, but my father before me.
Well, thank you so much, Mark Murphy, for being with us today. We really appreciate your time, and good luck on your campaign.
Moy Barnes, thank you so much. Everyone else, have a wonderful evening, and go fight, win 20 days till the election.
I now invite Letitia Romero, candidate for Borough President, to give her opening statement.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for your patience this evening. I'm sorry I had a little technical difficulty, but I'm Letitia Romero, and I'm running for Staten Island Borough President, and I'd like to make your life easier. I am running for Borough President because, frankly, for the past 20 or almost 30 years now, I have been volunteering my time throughout Staten Island in various capacities. I was a small business owner at age 21, and I recognized the fact that life on Staten Island was difficult, and we needed a voice. And so I began going to my community board meetings, and ultimately I got a job in government with Mayor Giuliani, and then later on with Governor Pataki. And through the years, I've spent my time volunteering for such positions as Chair of Community Board 1 in Staten Island, where I was very honored to be able to work with Councilmember Debbie Rose, and together we did some really great things, some very earth-shattering, I'd like to say, things on the North Shore, and bringing Empire Outlets to the North Shore, and bringing Key Food, the first supermarket in 40 years, to the North Shore, and ultimately moving the sanitation garage, which will be moved from Jersey Street to the Fresh Kills landfill. Also, I supported, along with Councilmember Rose, the rezoning of the Bay Street corridor, and that was I guess to the chagrin of our current borough president and to other elected officials who didn't want to see that rezoning happening. But we understood that the Bay Street corridor, in order for it to really really come to life, we needed to build affordable housing, and we needed to activate.
Thank you, Letitia. So we're going to ask a series of questions, and you have about 90 seconds to answer.
Okay.
Fantastic. So our first question is, the role of the borough president often changes depending on the office holder. How would you use the office of the borough president to impact city policies affecting the borough? What is your vision for the office?
Okay, so the role of the borough president is actually codified in the city charter, and it is to oversee land use actions and budget items. But the thing that I think you meant when you said it changes is that you can use it as a bully pulpit and to advocate and to actually put legislation in through the city council. I envision my role as the borough president to be the #1 advocate for Staten Island. And what I'd like to do is I'd like the rest of New York City to understand Staten Island, because too often we're being told that it's the forgotten borough. And I think it's only forgotten when our leaders forget to fight for us. And so I will, #1, be somebody to show the other 4 boroughs that we are different. Our borough is mostly single family homes, and we are a borough of parks. We are a borough, unfortunately, of cars because we lack public transportation. So what I'd like to do first and foremost is make sure that we have smart traffic light technology installed on our roadways, which will move our buses and move our traffic forward. Smart traffic light technology is real-time engineers moving traffic in real time by watching over the traffic.
Thank you so much. So our next question. The borough president has the authority to introduce legislation, yet few borough presidents in recent years have exercised this authority. You did mention that in your previous statement. Would you utilize this power? And if so, what legislation would you introduce?
Well, honestly, I think that, aside from making sure that our traffic moves, I would like to see a change to the way our city budget is handled. I think that right now, the way the budget works is that if we overspend the budget, we have to raise property taxes in order to make up for the deficit. So for Staten Island, that has been disastrous for us because it has resulted in us paying more money per capita than the other boroughs. So it's unfair. I think that I'd like to correct I know I'd like to correct the property tax structure. I'd also like to introduce legislation so that we are mandated to receive the money that is earmarked from the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. 150 million in excess revenue goes to the city of New York to improve public transportation. It's usually spent on trains. I'd like that spent on Staten Island to install smart traffic light technology, to up our public transportation, to get more ferries, to get more docks, and to make it easier to move around Staten Island. So because we are affected most by that bridge, I would like that money spent here, and I'd like to introduce legislation to do that.
Thank you very much, Letitia. Next question. Borough presidents are charged with making hundreds of appointments. What criteria would you use for appointments to positions appointed by the borough president? Examples are education policy, city planning commission, and community boards. What process would you put in place for advertising open positions and recruited qualified candidates that represent the diversity of New York City? And would you assure that appointments represent the diversity of Staten Island's growing diverse population?
So I have always believed that the best and the brightest should always be appointed to every job. I have been a small business owner, not once, but twice, and I've always held an executive role. And when I seek people to fill those positions. I seek people who understand the job, who have a passion for the job, and who actually are talented and able to do the job. Because Staten Island's community has become so diverse, I believe that the applicants will be diverse. And so naturally, we will see a diverse, employees in Borough Hall. I could tell you what criteria I never used and I won't use. I don't play with that old boys club and the cronies and appointing your friend's mother's brother, sister's cousin. So I believe absolutely in transparency. For community boards, I want people from each community. Very, very important, because right now, if you take a look at what the community boards look like, too often they're top heavy in one community or another. So I would post every job publicly, and I would have a committee to vet, but ultimately I would make the final decision about the appointments.
Thank you very much. Next question. Developers argue uniformed land use review procedure, ULURP, should be streamlined, while community groups and advocates believe more opportunities for input should be provided, or that voting thresholds should be changed for application approval. The pandemic has cast further disruption to the process. What reforms to ULURP do you support?
Well, I honestly, right now, Corey Johnson has a bill in front of the City Council called Planning Together, NYC Planning Together. I think it's a bad bill because I think that bill puts the power of ULURP in a land use czar that would come from the mayor's office, and it would be Manhattan-centric or New York City-centric, rather than where it should be, which is in the hands of the borough president and the community boards and the local city council members. So if we're going to make, I do believe that it would make sense to rezone Staten Island, frankly. I think that each borough should be planned out, and zoning should be, a rough zoning should be done. We did that in Battery Park City, and you can see the wonderful mix of housing that was done there. Parks, open space, museums, culturals, all because it was planned first. So if we're going to change zoning, I would tweak the New York City Planning Together that Corey Johnson has introduced, and I would say that it should start in the borough president's office, and the borough president should commence a plan with input from the community board, civic organizations, and then ultimately the city council members, and that should go up to the planning czar, and then the city should fund those zoning plans and zoning changes. So that, rather than one-off these ULURPs and having all these variances, a comprehensive plan would make better sense.
Thank you very much for your answer. Next question. In what major ways would you prioritize, would your priorities be different from your predecessor?
Oh my. So many. So what's going on with Borough Hall in the last 8 years? It's been very closed off. Because I am a community board chair, I truly believe in having a lot of input from the community. And I'm very proud that when I was the chair of Community Board 1, we would have hundreds of people at our meetings because they were open to the public. We gave plenty of time for people to discuss, and we had great subcommittee meetings. As borough president, the borough board, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest tools a borough president has, will be held with me, the borough president there, along with the city council members and all the community board chairs, and it will be wide open to the public, where the public can come and talk about what's going on in their communities. Also, district service cabinet meetings. Right now, they're hardly ever held. I will hold them monthly because it is very important to be able to speak to the borough commissioners and the commissioners of the city to be able to plan Staten Island. And lastly, another thing that I would do is I want Borough Hall to be for the people. We have a beautiful beautiful plaza on Borough Hall. That should be our town hall. That should be used for more than protests and rallies that I have used them for many times lately. And it should be actually programmed so that we can have entertainment, and we could have people from all over Staten Island with all different interests, artists and school children and people from different cultures who want to share what they have to offer for Staten Island. And that's what the beginning of what I would do as borough president.
Thank you so much, Letitia. So we have 3 questions from the audience. So
Okay.
First question, what do you feel is the top public safety issue on Staten Island, and how will you deal with it?
The top public safety issue on Staten Island is probably, it comes from off Staten Island, and that's bail reform. Bail reform has changed the way our court systems work, and by changing it so dramatically, what we have done is we've created a revolving door, and it's made people feel unsafe, and it's because they are more unsafe than they were before. Look, if people are willing to do bad things or to go against society and what's accepted in society, they're only going to be encouraged if they feel that they can get away with it. And bail reform has taken the job of judge out of the hands of the judges and has put it into an algorithm. So I think that, Staten Island as a community, I think that we're a fairly safe community. And I also think that we're a fairly close-knit community. But I think that there are opportunities. Unfortunately, there are bad people or people that are on the wrong side of the law, and they become encouraged by the fact that they're not going to be prosecuted.
Thank you very much. Next question. What oversight is needed for NYC EDC, Economic Development Corporation, to be more transparent?
Okay, so, the oversight, I think, is it should come from the borough president, right? The borough president should be the the cheerleader in chief of Staten Island. She should be seeking opportunities to have employment here in Staten Island, and part of that plan that I talked about before with ULURP would be planning for economic development. Unfortunately, the Economic Development Corporation, and this is a double-edged sword, because you want to give them some autonomy because they have to strike deals. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that they are striking deals with people that need or have the desire to open up a business, and and who they can be supported. When I was at the Battery Park City Authority, I was the head of the Minority and Women Business Entrepreneur Program for the Battery Park City Authority. And what I did was I actually worked with Governor Pattison. He asked me to help him with 15A, which is the law that allows for the program. That's the MWB program in New York State. And what we found is that too many of the same big business people were getting all of the contracts. And I broke that wide open, and I forced the MTA to actually have to make criteria. And I would like to see that happen in the EDC.
Thank you. And this is the last question. How do you currently view racial problems in the borough, and specify at least one solid action to improve them?
So I was part of the Increase the Peace Corps, and as a matter of fact, that's where Helen Settles and I met many years ago. And so for me, I have always been somebody who believes that we should celebrate our commonalities, and we should learn about each other's differences. And I think that Staten Island has always gotten a bad rap because we are a mostly white island. I am thrilled that over the years, we're seeing so many new cultures coming, and Hispanic and the Asian culture, our population is growing on Staten Island. I would like to see, as I said earlier, that plaza at Borough Hall actually programmed so that we could celebrate all the cultures on Staten Island. I would like to see us be able to have conversations and to expand what we see happening on the North Shore, where you can get dinner from just about every nation around the world, on the North Shore. And I'd like to see that, move forward and be celebrated all throughout Staten Island. I think that the one thing that holds us together is we're all Staten Islanders. We chose to live here for a reason. And so that's our common thread. And as we teach each other about our different cultures, we'll learn more and we'll all be able to cohabitate together.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for your time and coming on. We appreciate it, even with all the technical difficulties. And good luck on your candidacy for borough president.
Well, thank you for having me, and be well to everybody. Thank you, Helen. As always, you know how much I love and respect all of you. Thank you.
So now I would like to turn our closing remarks over to our president of the Harriet Tubman Purple Hat Society.
Okay, hello there. My name is Nancy Ashen-Poku, and I am the president of the Harriet Tubman Purple Hats. On behalf of the coalition of the Staten Island Black-led community-based organization Candidate Forum Week, we thank our candidates for their participation tonight and for their willingness to run for this very important office. Good luck. We thank our coalition partners and their respective members for listening in tonight and for taking the time to ensure that you are informed and civically engaged as a voter. We also want to thank each our tech members who have been so patient, and their expertise have really shown today. Tomorrow, tune in at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live, on any of your social media platforms, and listen to the candidates running for City Council. This is being hosted by the Staten Island Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Incorporated. Don't forget to tune in on Friday for the discussion on the 5 ballot measures. In closing, I want to remind you to vote, because voting matters. And if you don't vote, you don't count. Until next time, good night.